Yeah.
What's up,
And
brother?
our
What's
brother
up?
Ian Williams, he not be joining us today, but he is in our prayers, him and his family. So Sherrod, what
Yes,
we doing
sir.
today, brother?
Hey, well, we always do, man. Coming to just add value and just talk about that thing called life, leadership, and community. This is the Brothers of Influence podcast. Another Saturday, another episode. Man, how are you doing? How are you doing? How you feeling?
Man, I'm good. And my name is Shante Price. I am your thought coach. I believe that thoughts become things. We cannot and will not accomplish our goals or our it's just a fact of life. Um, One thing I want to I'm thinking about community today. I had
Hmm.
a odd encounter, I would have to say.
An odd encounter.
So
Okay.
yeah, odd encounter. So and I've been kind of thinking about it, and I don't let stuff get to me. I don't, meditate and chew on things. But so I had to think back to, when I was in the streets, when I was doing my thing, doing what I was doing, you know.
Hmm.
But I've never had uh, a really uh, bad heart, you know. Granted, I was selling drugs, I was doing some stuff, and so get home from work, turn down my block, and just like any day, right? If most streets, both cars ain't finna come down the block, right? It just that's obvious. So I turned the corner and I stopped to let the other guy come by. Well, whoever it was come by. I didn't know it was a guy at first. Like literally, I'm like, there's no, I'm like there's no right of way to who should be coming first. I stopped. I could have kept going because like I was right there, could just pull in and I'm parked. And the brother, I love my people, but the brother, he pulls up on me and rolls down his window. And I'm thinking to myself, why?
Hmm.
Right? I'm like,
Hmm.
what's the what did I miss?
Hmm.
Right? And I'm like, it, things like this happen on a daily basis.
Hmm.
And people lose their lives over simple things as that.
Hmm.
And I'm just thinking to myself, why? Right?
Hmm.
What if because if I was the guy that you rolling down the window up on me and I'm like, what's up? What's the problem? Right? Can potentially because of something that's literally irrelevant, whether who comes first or comes second. Even though you came, somebody could have been dead, right?
Hmm.
And when we talk about life, we talk about leadership and we talk about community, right? It's like none of those things could have meant anything at that moment, right? Because I'm pretty sure he has family, possibly kids. I have a family, I have a kid, you know.
Hmm.
But at that instant, things could have been like over for either one of us, right? And so that's kind of a when we talk about life, leadership, and community, that's why we're here because things like that happen every day
Hmm.
because because of the society we live in, because people are angry, people are frustrated, and people are mad. You know, we see the
Yeah.
incident just this week with at Dave Chappelle's show. Guy runs up on the stage, and and he says he's doing it to bring awareness of his. We don't know if it's true, but I'm just saying what he said to bring awareness
Hmm.
of his grandmother is losing her home because of something he said. But things like that, and it's like, and most people are just living, or just existing, should I say, right? And so yeah, that's kind of what's been on my heart, that the community aspect of what we do, because that's why we're here. We believe in community. And if we look
Mhm.
at community historically, what community can do and has done, there's nothing but great things in community.
Right.
Now, there's always a flip side of community. If we jump into what gangs are, and when I say gangs, I'm not specifically directing, the inner city, because
Mhm.
there's a gang is a gang, whether you're
Mhm.
part of the police department, whether you're part of, it don't make a difference. A gang is a gang. So I'm
Mhm.
not specifically speaking necessarily to my community about that aspect, but there's power in community, and you got to look at it from both sides, right? You have to look at it from both sides. Big thing right
Mhm.
now is there's a series about the BMF, and when you look at that, what those guys did because of community, right? So it might be the negative side of community, but it still was community.
Mm.
And we need to understand, community starts at home. That's your first community. If you're married and you have children, that's your first community. And if you can manifest greatness there, and instill in your family what we could do as a unit, then you can branch out and begin to affect change outside of that area. So that's what kind of what I've been meditating on, man. Because I just growing up, I can recall instances of that. What happened?
Mhm.
I had a friend that died because of a incident like that. Right? It's a man, what you looking at? You know what I'm saying? At the
Mhm.
end of the day, it was nonsense. You died over nonsense, but it
Mm.
happens every day.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. He come in with the heaviness, boy. He said, "Listen, I want to talk about community today, right?" And I feel you, man. And so there's a couple of things that came to mind when you were kind of talking through um, that aspect, that experience of what just happened, right? And you're right. I mean, we see a lot of that. Um, I can't say that I directly experienced that. I'm sitting here trying to think, like, if like ever rolled up on me, or shoot, if I ever just rolled up on, just. But here's what came to mind. It's something me and my mom talk about all the time. Uh, is what
Shout
is
out to
called.
moms.
Hey, you already know. That's right. Because tomorrow, yeah, we got to recognize moms. So happy Mother's Day, right? To the mothers out there that are putting up with us, because that's exactly what they're doing, right? Putting up with
Mhm.
us. But they are definitely important and well loved, deserving of that love. So hey, yeah, again, shout out, happy Mother's Day. But a thing that me and my mom always talk about in every conversation, it never fails. The matter of the conversation, what we're talking about, subject, topic, whatever. And there's this thing that we always call, like, or what we say is the human factor. And I think even when you were kind of just talking through, just the experience and just why community is so heavy on you, I think that the human factor is always the thing that is consistent no matter what we're doing and how we live in, right? There is that human factor because we're human, we're people. But the thing about the human factor that is always relevant, no matter the situation, is that we never know what people are dealing with. You never know what problems, or not even just problems. You just don't know, right? You knew where you were. You knew what was going on with you, but you have no idea what other people are, what challenges or trials, what you know, uh, crisis they're in or out of or coming out of, it's just so many different variables that we just never know. But then when we're in situations where we are now in communities, or we are engaging with someone, that now, regardless of who it is and whatever the situation may be, we sometimes react or respond based on the feeling and action of others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, even using the scenario that you're talking about, like this guy rolled up, but and I'm not saying right or wrong, but it's one of those things that you then have a choice and a decision to make, right? You then can respond or react to the
Mm-hmm.
situation, right? I know me. I have my moments of that probably wasn't the best reaction I could have gave in that situation, right? I try to look at it from the perspective of reaction versus response, meaning that of, do I look at it from an emotional standpoint, or do I try to put some intellect in that, right? And that's the difference for me when it comes to reaction and response. But again, when you think about this whole community aspect, right? I love that, because even again, for us, it's life, leadership, and community. And I think within the community, it's all that, right? I think community brings all those different components together. But the thing that came to mind was that of coming together, right? That's really what a community is about. It's like coming together, bringing all our various different differences together, but being able to then turn around and help one another, build up one another, solve problems, lean and depend. I mean, it just really depends on how we look at it. And I love the fact that you said that community starts at home, right? Because that is the first community, or listen, that is even the first ministry, right? What you're doing at home. And it's funny because even as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this and talking about and trying to put this together, it's like all these things are happening at one time, but they're all connected and interlaced and part of our community. And I love it because you said, like, the community, it all starts at home, but then you use one single word that just puts it all together, like the unit, right? The family unit, the community unit, right? Dude. Within the word community is unit, right? Yeah. Right? COMM, right? UNIT, what? Community, right? You take off that Y and that COMM, it's a unit, right? So community is all about becoming a singular unit, whatever that means. But it's the coming together to be able to understand, build, lift, and get over those various different hurdles and challenges. But like you said, man, it's like there is a lot of nonsense that happens, and it happens within communities, but they're isolated components, and they're but it's just funny how it perpetuates itself throughout the entire community, just the one singular action.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then it then impacts the entire community because of just one decision.
Yes.
All right. And I think that's even kind of like what I hear now, if I think about just thinking through what you were just saying, is that, our decisions that we make, singular or not, in a group or not, or a community or not, have an impact within our communities. Which also just even go back to, again, leadership, right? In life and leadership is all about just a sequence of decisions that are made. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, man, you make a series of decisions. Each decision is actually leading to something, building on something, impacting something or someone, right? Or even, can we say, our decisions are also impacting our communities, right? So it's that collectiveness of these various different decisions that I think, even now as I'm thinking through this, man, is really, really, really interesting and important when we think about this concept of life, leadership, and community. It's the decisions in all three of those areas.
And but let me show you, because we make a lot of people make a lot of bad decisions when they're I'm not even going to mention this because I can't think of the acronym, but when people are tired, that's one of the things. When you're tired, you make bad decisions oftentimes. When you're tired, when you're hungry, different things like that. And so the thing is, now part of this is that I don't really watch TV. I love a great movie or something because movies or TV shows they give me some peace and some relaxation. But I don't watch TV that much, you know, because what I've learned is it's one of those vices for me that can be a distraction, right? So I don't really watch TV. And now the amazing part of it had a long week, had a long week. And so the amazing part of it is Thursday, I ran across a TV show. So, and I'm just going to show you how, what did I say? Thoughts become things, what you put into your thought. So I started watching this show. It's a brand new show. And I watched the first 5 episodes. So you got to think, I think maybe 30, 45 minutes. So that's a lot of time. That's some hours by itself. But like I said, had a long wait. That was something to help bring me back, give me some relaxation, calm down, clear my mind. The TV show is called 61st Street. And the TV show is about South Side of Chicago, right? So just think about it, right? Thoughts become things. So I don't really watch TV, yet I came across this show that's talking about gang violence and the dirty police, and you know what I'm saying? With Courtney B. Vance, he's like the lawyer in it, and then this happens the next day, right? Because I might have responded different. I'm a real laid back guy. I don't, you know what I'm saying? But I just might have responded different yesterday if I hadn't came across this series that gave me a chance to relax and reflect, right? Because I've been there. So gave me a chance to relax and reflect on just myself and, in situations and things. So, and when I look back, I like, man, that was part of that, me not responding. Like I didn't respond. I didn't react at all. Why? Right? Okay. I had a long day again. Like I'm trying to get home. I'm trying to eat, relax, go to sleep, right? I don't got time for this. But the possibility is that if I hadn't encountered that show the day before, I might have responded differently, right? And so that's the amazing part of our minds and how our minds process things. People tend to say, well, I reacted. But if we want to be better, I don't care who you are. There are some people that's doing bad things in neighborhoods, but everybody in the neighborhood love them because of the great things they're doing.
Right.
And because they're doing these great things, that don't justify the bad things they're doing. But that a lot of those people, they just have a compassion for what we're talking about, their community. Right or wrong, what they're doing, they're showing that they have this compassion for the community, right? And so, but at the same time, what that means, they're even though they're doing this over here, they have a thought process, right? Something's going on in their thoughts that's causing them to not be selfish at the end of the day, right? And once again, that's not justifying the wrong a person might be doing, but it goes back to thoughts. Like I said, thoughts become things. Whatever you feed your mind is going to manifest in your life. It's going to manifest in your life. Just like whatever you feed your body. A lot of people remember this. I think there's a series where the guy was eating McDonald's for 30 days or whatever. And, going to the hospital, and they like, guess what? Hey, if you keep doing this, you're going to die. Right? Because guess what you put in your body, it's good to eat, or it's okay to have some junk here and there, some cake, some cookies. Like I love sweets. If I ate sweets like I want to eat sweets, I would probably be 300 pounds. Right. But I had to make a decision. I had to look at things in my family. Diabetes run in my family. So do I want to get on that bandwagon? Right. And so I had to make some decisions. Cause like literally, I love these Boston cream pies. I ain't had none in years, but I would buy a box and I would eat the box.
Mm.
Literally, I would eat the box. And you know, I'm a little guy. I'm skinny. But so if I was doing what I wanted to do, if I ain't changed my thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
there's no telling. I
Right.
could be dead. I could have a heart attack. I could have diabetes, and you know all that stuff. So
Right. Yeah. Well, so yeah. Brothers in the Influence podcast, man. Your thought coach is in here just dropping all kinds of this things to think about, these things to ponder, right? But I love it, like you said, like thoughts become things, and I'm like you, right? I don't watch TV, but I do watch shows, and I definitely love a good movie, right? And there's never a show or a movie and it's even funny because I think I'm even intentional about specifically what it is I watch and stuff. Like there's some kind of strategy, so to speak, in even what I watch and stuff. But as you were saying it, it was funny because the way that you literally kind of made the connection, because you were like, again, like you watched this show, that was talking about the South Side of Chicago, and again, just the gangs and all that. And then it's funny how, again, when you had this encounter with this, situation, that because of what you were previously watching, or I think it's important for us to understand that what we allow to have access to us has a direct impact on how we then turn around and react and respond. Because, and especially depending on who we are, what we do. So even to the point of, it's important to know that we have to be very conscious of what we have allowed to have access to us. There's and I'll give this to even kind of make more sense. Like one time, me and my oldest daughter were in the car. This was some years ago. And I forget what we were doing. We was riding. We was doing something. We was in the car. And we was riding and we was going somewhere, and then baby girl wanted to play some music. I was like, cool, whatever. So she plugs her phone in, whatnot, got Bluetooth. She's connecting the phone, and then just some song starts playing. It wasn't bad, right? No, with no cussing or nothing crazy like that. I think it was the edited version of songs that we knew that kind of back in my day that I listened to when I was out, thinking I was whatever. So song came on, and I'm like, oh, hold on, we can't listen to that. Can't listen to that. And she asked the question, right? And I knew what was about to happen. I kind of saw it, right? I was like, okay, I see what's about to play out. So the song played, and I was like, well, we can't listen to that. She was like, well, what's wrong with the song, Dad? I was like, well, I said, not necessarily anything wrong with the song. I just don't want to listen to it. Right. And I even went on to say, like, I can't listen to it. And I knew what I was doing. Right. Yeah. I was teeing it up for that next question, that following question. Well, what do you mean you can't listen to it? I'm glad you asked the question, baby girl. I was like, I'm very intentional about what I allow to have access to. So I see the puzzling look on her face. Like, what do you mean? What does that mean? I said, listen, where I'm at in my life now, I have to kind of guard the things that I allow myself to listen to, watch, hear, see, like all those things I have to pay attention, because it reminds me of things in my past, or it brings out something that I used to do that I no longer have the desire to do, or whatever the case. Right? Because what I think happens is that we have to understand, when we think about the things that we watch, see, hear, all those things that we eat, drink, taste, all those things, if you change your habits and behaviors, right? And we are trying to live differently, think differently, do things differently, then the things that don't help us do those things will then turn around and allow us to kind of even go back to a specific mindset, or a specific behavior, or a specific thought, or all these various different things. So I'm breaking this down to her. She was like, oh, Okay, well then I'll play this. And she understood, but I say that to say, bro, because when you said that, yeah, I agree that we have to pay attention to the things that we allow to influence us, right? Influence is good or bad or indifferent. It's not this. And then I'm not even saying that because you was watching that show that brought out something bad in you, but it reminded you,
Yeah.
right? And again, because it was something that was fresh, right? And based on the situation, it quickly emulated that, or you were easily connect. You see what I'm saying? Like it's almost one of
Yep.
those things like, oh, south side of Chicago, right? But no, that wasn't the case at all, right? But that was just the immediate thing, and it's just so important for us to know and understand, especially within community, right? So we're you if you're tuning in now, if you're joining us now, we're talking about community, right? So we're talking about community on Brothers of Influence podcast, life, leadership, and community. And Shate brought up this, something that he's been thinking about was, just throughout his week, this idea of community. So, even in this thread of community, and as we're talking through this, man, like I think it's very important that, again, like you said, you know, as the thought coach, man, that our thoughts become things. And again, those things that we put in us mentally, physically, emotionally, all those different areas and our accesses to who we are, that they do have an impact, right? Again, on how we make decisions, how we interact with people, right? Even just how we even navigate those various different aspects of systems that we live. I mean, like if you think about just in general, our entire life is all evolves around some type of system, right? Everything. So, all those various different aspects have a very big impact on who we are, how we make decisions, and how that then translates within our communities, right? And how we then engage within our communities. So,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
I think that access and that's key. And even when I think about it, right? When you think about life is who you are and what's taking place around you. That's life, right?
mm-hmm,
Whether it's in the work environment, the home environment, out in the community. That's life. And then when you add in leadership, right? Now that's more direct. That's more this decisive when you talk about leadership. How are you what are you doing? Life is what's going on around you. It's how then that leadership is how are you engaging your life, right? In the home,
mm-hmm,
right? With your wife, with your children, right? At work, with if you're a supervisor or something, how are you engaging there? And when you take uh, life plus leadership, you're thrust into community at that point, right?
mm-hmm,
You're thrust into community because
mm,
because that's the broader aspect of your life, right? I don't care if you walk into a store, that's community, right? If it's 10 people in that store, that's community because there's decisions being made, right? Everybody, I don't care who you are, you walk down the aisle and you did this. One person, you both try to go the same, that happens, right? And you
mm-hmm.
smile, you might not even say nothing to each other and you just keep walking, right? That's community,
Right,
right?
right.
Because that's something that happens, right? Uh, I think I told this story before in prison, just having a bad day and not paying attention. And this guy's walking towards me, older guy walking towards me. I'm walking towards him, and I'm just having a really, really bad day. And I literally just runs into him. I'm just like, now in prison at that moment, it could have went bad. Literally, it could have been bad.
Right, right.
And I'm just like, man, sorry, man, apologize. And this older guy, he just like, he didn't say nothing. He didn't, you know what I'm saying? And it turned out all right. But because I was just in my frustrated being in prison thing, it could have turned bad, right? At that point. And so we have within a day, we have thousands of decisions to make. And
Mm,
I'm just saying this to go back to what you were saying about access, right? Those
mm-hmm,
decisions are going to be made based on what you allow to have access to your mind,
mm,
right? So if And it's a fact, man. Listen, you can listen to whatever music you want, whatever stuff you want, like, but at the end of the day, like, I grew up with old school music, so I love '90s rap, but I grew up with old school music, and a lot of those raps take their beats and whatever from old school music. So if I hear some of that old school music today, I instantly I'll connect it with one of those songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what you were getting at, right? Remembering
Mm-hmm.
stuff with the music. And like I can't think of it, the old school song Juicy, but Biggie did a song with that beat, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when I hear the song, I instantly gonna think of Biggie. It is what it is. He used that music, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it happens often. People don't even realize they'll be listening to something. It's like, man, this remind me of something. And when you
Right.
catch it, you like, and so and that's why we have to. Hey, we're people are grown. They can do whatever they want to. But if you're telling me that you want to do something better, you want to do something greater, it's going to be all about access. What
Mm-hmm.
are you allowing to access your mind? Because if
Mm-hmm.
you're going on that journey to being something, to being great, you have this vision, and you want to. Most people that want to do something great, it encompasses other people, right?
Right.
And so if you want to do that, it's going to be all about access, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and we see it all the time. Dave Chappelle had it on one of his shows, when Keeping It Real Goes Wrong, right? The guy, he's in the office with all the
Mm-hmm.
people, and he decides, you know, got a good job, and now he just flips the script on everybody, and then he loses his job, right? But it just makes me think of access. What were you doing outside of there that would cause you to do this different thing?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So when you said the access, I think that is key. What do we had let access our brains? Uh, we tell, and the funny thing is, right? We we listen to people say how you talk to your kids is going to affect how they are, right? So if you're telling them they're no good, they're this and that, right? And we see this stuff, we be like, yeah, and yet and still we do some of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yet and still we say some of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you say it, you can't take it back. However, you can always, right, wrap something else around it.
There you go.
You might not be able to take it back, but you most definitely can get them back. Whoever that person might be, whether it's a kid, it's a spouse, right? You can get them back, right? But now you have to wrap something else around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that, right? Because basically, like, even if, what we're talking about here is mindset, right? Really, really, we're talking about the community. Now we're talking about, kind of the community and the mindset of community. Like, even now going back into, like you were talking about, just thoughts becoming things, but just now the impact of our mindset within our communities. So even like, and I love how you kind of brought in the aspect of the life, leadership, and community. And you're right, man. Like, life is the bubble, right? It's what we're in. But within that life that we live are these aspects of leadership and community, which then now give us more focused, a more intentional approach to life, right? So my life is now being led through my actions and the mindset in which I create, right? Which also then connect me then to communities, right? So it's my life and then my leadership within my life that then turn around and connect me and build the communities in which are supposed to help my leadership and my life, right? Like, so it's almost like a bridge that you now connect all aspects of it, right? Or literally, that's what leadership is. The leadership is the bridge between our life and our community, like how we live our life, how we lead our life, how we lead our thoughts. So I love that, and I believe, right, when we think about this whole aspect of mindset, right, and did our thoughts become things, that again, literally this morning I was, reading, and as a business professor and a business coach, mindset is very important, right? So let me even just look at it from a strategic mindset process, right? With the process in which we use within Growth Coach, which is kind of that business coaching component that I use. In there's 5 components, right? So the first thing is facing reality, and then it's self-knowledge, then relationship management, strategic focus, and priority management, and then vision and goals. But it's all a part of the mindset, right? When we face reality, the question is okay, what is working, what's not working, what is true within our reality? Because again, we have to understand that in order for us to make a change based on where we're trying to go. But then we got to understand that what's working and what's not working. But again, self-knowledge is now, who am I? And what is it that I have, and what is it that I'm missing? Because if once I face this reality and I identify what's working and what's not working, then I have to make the change necessary in order to make what's not working work, or use what is working right differently, or kind of repeat or continue to build on that process. But I got to know who I am and what it is I have. What relationships? Now, when we think about relationships, that's also community as well. How are we leveraging those relationships? How are we adding and building on to new relationships, or bringing new people into our community? That's all relationship management. And then being very strategic and focused on, again, the bigger picture, the vision and goals. Right. So one of the things that I was reading this morning, it was just talking about education, right? And that education literally means a change within. So the more information and knowledge we get, like even on this podcast, right? Our goal is to build a community, people that are listening to this podcast, that are coming in and hearing this information from our experiences, right? Seeing us break down and evaluate these experiences, and evaluating from the perspective of the lessons that we learn. We're sharing our experiences and giving knowledge and education based on what we've experienced, hopefully allowing other people to then have access to what we've experienced, that will give them knowledge and information and understanding that they can then turn around and use for their own benefit, right? So education, again, is all about that change within, but it's intentional from the perspective of making sure that, again, we apply it within our mind to then create new behaviors and habits. Really, when we think about mindset and changing our mindset and what change is, it's about creating new habits and behaviors that are beneficial to what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build in our life, how we're trying to connect our leadership to our life, and then how we're using our leadership to bridge that to our community, right? And bringing all those things full circle. I hope I didn't complicate that, but that's just what I heard and what I'm feeling, right? But that's that whole profession. My mom gets on me all the time. She be like, dude, like, are you trying, like, are they getting a degree at the end of your talks? Well, I mean, hopefully, right? But yeah. So I sometimes have a tendency to make something very simple complex, but my goal is really just to bring greater perspective and understanding to it. So what I was saying was that when we think about mindset, when we think about this idea of community, when we think about this idea of access, when we think about, thoughts becoming things, the one singular component in that is you, right? And it all comes down to how we think, right? How we process, what we allow to have access to us, that then influence our decisions, that then have a direct impact in how we communicate and how we act within our communities, and the influence that we have within our communities. So I think I just overcomplicated everything, so I'm gonna shut up.
Well, you said, I think you when you started, you kind of said it. Leadership is the bridge in between life and community, right? Mm-hmm. Because although if I move into a neighborhood, I'm a part of that community. Mm-hmm. But until I cross that bridge, I won't really be a part of the community, right? Because it's like, it's something new. It's something new, I don't know my neighbor. My neighbor doesn't know me, right? If I go around to the corner store, they don't know me. I don't know them, right? It's community is a process. It doesn't just happen, right? Even no matter what the community is, right? It's a process. So I don't think you overcomplicate it. For some.
And it's all about acceptance too, right? Like
Yeah,
even within a community, it's you have to be accepted within a community. All right.
yeah, yeah.
You
If
know,
I move into a neighborhood and and I'm just, I don't, I take my trash out, roll my cart out or whatever for the trash, but the wind blows it over. I don't go pick the stuff up, or if I just get, you know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
It's a process, right? It's
mm-hmm,
we in general, even like talking about family relationships, right? You meet somebody, and you still got to be, people will be okay with me because this is your girlfriend at the time or what have you, but you still have to work your way into the community, right?
right.
It the what's the word I'm looking for, the honeymoon phase of relationships only lasts so long, right?
Mm,
Eventually I got to talk to the brother or the cousin or the auntie or the uncle, and I got to cultivate that relationship too, to
mm-hmm,
become a part of that community. No matter what, it's not just gonna happen.
right.
And so yeah, and that's just part of that process. And I just want I want people I don't want people to just react to things that presses upon them.
Mm-hmm,
I don't want you to just react. I want you to act. Reacting is just like somebody hits you, you hit them back. That's just a reaction, right? That happens. But to be able to be hit
mm,
and engage the thought process of, because too often people get hit and the first thing they begin to think about is, what are people going to think about me? So
right.
then they react. Right? What are people going to be thinking about me? They react.
Mm,
you know but to be able to make the best decisions, the thought process, we have to engage the thought process. I
right.
don't care, people say, oh man, I just reacted. There's still a thought process there. You just went over the process. You
Mm-hmm,
just went, you didn't engage the process. You just reacted. It's just like somebody jumping the fence versus opening the gate, right? If
right.
I can
Right.
open the gate or I can jump the fence. The best way to do it is just to open the gate. If I jump the fence, my clothes can get snagged on the fence. I could trip and fall over the fence, right?
Right.
All these
Right.
other things can happen versus me walking through the fence. And what happens when I walk through the fence? I walk up to the gate, I lift the thing, I open it, walk through, turn around, close it, put the latch down. But when I jump over the fence, I just jump over the fence. I forget about the process. And that's what happens too often with our thinking.
Mm,
We don't engage the process. But that goes back to what we're feeding ourselves.
mm-hmm,
If I'm feeding myself uh just violence, if I'm feeding myself violence, and I'm that's all I'm talking about. That when something presses upon me, I'm going to respond violently,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
But take the guy that I'll tell this story about. I met this guy in prison. He was like on the streets, he would have hated me. Like, he had the tattoos to prove it. Like, me and him would have been enemies just because, right? But he had such a loving heart. It was it was crazy to think that this how he was, right? But he changed. His thoughts changed,
mm-hmm.
right? And he was the most lovingest person in the world at this when I met him, right? Versus if I would have met him 10 years ago walking down the street somewhere, he would probably been wanting to kill me just because of me, right?
Right. Right.
And
Right.
but what that didn't happen overnight, right?
Mm,
Something happened with him, and wheels began to turn in his head, and he began to change his thought process and realize that what he believed about me wasn't true,
mm,
because he didn't know me. He didn't, you know what I'm saying? Or people like
mm-hmm.
me. He didn't know people like me, and da 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 da. But it's a process, right? He
Right.
stopped jumping over the fence. That's what
Right.
happened. He got into a situation. He got into a situation like being in prison. It forces you to be, if you're a racist, or if you're a Nazi or whatever it is, it forces you to be around people you don't like in
Mhm.
prison. 'Cause at this point, you don't have a choice. So you're
Yeah,
gonna
well,
see,
community, right?
yeah,
Because that's the
right,
community you belong into,
exactly. You don't
right?
have a choice. So,
Mm.
like I say, I'm in like I said, I've met so many people like that because they just didn't know and had these conversations like, man, I was always taught and da 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 da, and this and it just be to me, it's amazing because in general, I'm just telling you from my community, we don't hate.
Mm.
We in general we don't hate. We're just a loving
Right,
people, right?
right.
Considering all that's happened, we're so loving, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we have to engage the process. Stop jumping over the fence and walk through the gate.
Yeah. Well, so all meaningful progress is a result of change,
Mm,
right? All meaningful progress is a result of change. And I think the important part of that statement is it's the meaningful progress, right? And if our desire is to have meaning or to provide some type of meaning, then things have to change. If you're continually doing the same thing, guess what's going to happen? You're going to continue to get the same results. But if you want things to change, then you have to change, right? And it has to be meaningful. The thing about so that whole analogy of the gate, right, or the fence, I love it. The thing that came to mind though was this, bro. You said, one of two options. I can either jump it, right, hop the fence. I think we all can relate to that. There's been plenty of fences that I had hopped, and it just depends on the situation of why I hopped it, right?
yeah.
I might have been running from something or someone, or just those nice flashing lights.
Hmm.
Go right, or you can walk through the gate, right, or open the gate and walk through like it's designed to do. But you know what jumped out to me, bro, when you said that was this: if I'm hopping the fence, if I'm jumping the fence, and we're talking about this whole concept of community and we're talking about leadership, my question is this: if I hop the fence and I'm in the lead, what about those that are behind me that can't jump the fence?
Mm.
Right now, what have I done? I have left them right, because they're unable to jump the fence. They don't have the capability, whatever the case may be. They're just not able to do and follow pursuit the way that I just did and how I led them to do it. But if I open the gate and walk through it, guess what? I can actually hold the gate open for everyone else who is following behind me, or those that are watching me saw me open the gate and saw that that was a better way to get access to whatever it is that they're trying to get access to.
Mm.
So if
Yeah.
I open the gate, then that means, guess what? Anybody following behind me can do the same thing because they saw me do this, right? So then now again, the meaningful progress resulted in a different change, because now instead of hopping the fence, I can open the gate. Now I'm giving better access and creating a different behavior and change
Yeah.
within the community. Let's open the doors to the gates instead of let's hopping the fence, right? That meaningful change.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
yeah.
I was just thinking, I don't even think a couple episodes we were talking about walking through the door with ourselves and kind of like,
Right.
uh,
Yep.
same thing.
Yep.
And yeah, it's, I've never met a person, uh, and I'll relate this back to my prison experience. I tell people all the time, I've never met a person in prison that wanted to come back to prison. Now, the person on the outside looking in, they'll see the person, they get out, they start doing the same thing, they come back to prison again. They get out,
Right.
start doing this, come back to prison. So like me, I seen that with my brothers, my cousins, right? In and out of prison, jail or prison, whatever, right? So, for me, I had a decision to make. Do I want to fall into that category? Do I still want to keep doing that? And what I found is that, like you're saying, access and decisions of what we want to do. I can honestly say I was doing a lot of great things to not come back to prison. However, I wasted a lot of time my first 5 years. And I might not have, if I would have got out within that time, possibility that I might have fell back into to that or fell into that type of situation, right? And so I tell people all the time, I have no regrets of the 15 and a half years I've done, because I was able to, I didn't know who I was prior to coming into that situation. Then I was able to
Right.
leave knowing who I was, knowing my capabilities and what I could do. And most people in prison, they have all the intentions in the world to get out of prison and not come back, but they're not putting in the work for them not to be able to come back. And what do I mean? So the person gets out and and they go back into the same environment, and they're not prepared to be in that environment. And eventually what happens, I can't get a job, or it's a struggle, which is a fact that's going to happen because what you were in prison, right? That's going to happen. Things like that are going to happen. And so it's easier for them to fall back to that situation because they haven't worked that out in their minds of these possibilities, and this could happen, this won't happen, I might not have a job, da, 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 da. And it's easy just to fall back. Your man give you that bag and you right back in. Or if you was in doing something else, you right back in. Like, so
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's always going to be the case, especially when we think about change, right? Changing behaviors and habits and this mindset, and especially within community, that we have to understand that once we make the change, we that sometimes means that we have to open the gate, walk into a different environment, and leave an environment that we were currently in that didn't support the change that we were looking for. Right. Because if we're looking to, move forward within and provide, uh, a different way of thinking and looking and guiding and leading our communities, then we have to change the way that we think about things, and we have to start creating that within ourselves. So then when we go into these different communities, or when we're going into, or even just making an impact within our community, we can do it based on how we're thinking, how we're behaving, how we're acting, changing our attitude. Like, we become the catalyst of change. We become the change agent within our communities. Right, being able to now give access to a different way of thinking, right? And we can do that just in our mere presence, and emulating and modeling the type of behavior and thoughts and things that we need to within our communities, right? Being that change agent. So, bro, I shoot. Nah, I didn't even look at the time, but yeah, I guess we gotta look at wrapping this thing up, man. So, yeah, I guess any final thoughts on your end?
Yeah, so the last thing you saying sometimes you got to walk through the gate into another environment, right? Through the gate, not through a wall, through a gate. And what I want to say about that is that sometimes, or oftentimes, when we want to change, we have to leave people behind. That doesn't mean you don't love them. That doesn't mean you'll never talk to them. Although oftentimes that's how those people may feel. But at these certain defining moments in our lives, it's not about them. It's about us. And it's about our change. It's about our progress. It's about us loving us enough to close the gate behind us. And get on a track to a new journey to better yourself. And so I just want to encourage anyone that it's okay. Yep, they're gonna feel like you don't love them. They're gonna feel like you've abandoned them. But guess what? It's about you, and it's not about them. And all you can do is hope that one day they'll understand.
Right.
Your journey and your process of being a better you.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Hey man, that's Shante Price, your thought coach. Giving a shout out to our man Ian Williams, our purpose coach, who's not with us, but he's in spirit and heart. Hey, I am Sherrod Ledet, your growth coach of Greater Lexington, your leadership locksmith, the professor. And my final thoughts are this: change is possible, um, and it gives you access to different things, but it has to be meaningful change, meaningful purpose that will allow you to really then gain access to a greater understanding, not just for you, but also for your community, right? Because the change that's necessary in order to have impact and influence and change in any aspect of our life is always going to start with you and your ability to then turn around and lead through the experiences that we have and the changes that we make, right? So again, man, Shante Price, our thought coach. Shout out to our man Ian Williams, our purpose coach, and I am Sherrod Ledet, the growth coach of Greater Lexington, your leadership locksmith, and the professor. Hey, another episode of Brothers of Influence down in the books. Hey,
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
y'all joining in.
See you
Peace.
next time.